Welcome to Innovation Visuals Knowledge Hub. In this session, we're going to be looking at the importance of lifetime customer value as opposed to just acquiring customers for specific events such as Christmas. And with the festive period fast approaching, Tim, the temptation is to grab market share and focus everybody's attention on getting business through the door during this period. But you've put in the title that customers aren't just for Christmas.
Yes.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, I think Christmas trading is really, really important, particularly for retailers and e-commerce. And this video is really about e-commerce. You have some product classes which Christmas is the time for trading. Like if you look at things like perfume and fragrance, more than 90% of the volume is going to be done in the run-up to Christmas because it's a big gift item. However, I think for a lot of e-commerce retailers, there is a lot of sales volume around at this time of year. It becomes crucial to grab that volume, that turnover. But I think the important thing to remember is that actually at what cost that you're grabbing that turnover, and think more cleverly about your lifetime customer profit and actually the return on investment of acquiring those customers, making sure that if you're acquiring customers, you're acquiring the right type, and so that you get value from them, not just in the period you go and grab them, that one-off, but you actually develop better long-term value from your campaigns.
So you say the right type of customer, how are we defining that? How does the business go about defining that?
So it's going to vary between obviously the different businesses, but the right type of customer is a customer that, you know, is in line with your brand values for a start, and really sort of values what you do as a business. You're not just forcing them in on the back of a discount or a one-off. Those good customers are the ones that are going to be aligned with you and stay with you. And I think the discount piece is quite important this time of year. Now, you know, when the economy is not doing too well and businesses aren't doing too well, there is a temptation to go into discounting. But you need to think about the type of customers you attract with discounting or with very heavy discounting. So when we talk about the right type of customers, it's the ones from a purely mathematical and profit basis, actually the right type of customers are those people that are going to give you the highest profit over their lifetime.
You talk about discounting there, and obviously with Black Friday, you know, becoming ever more popular every year, it seems to be extending way beyond just a Friday. It seems to be the whole month of November, which then extends into this festive period. So there's obviously some real challenges there for businesses. How do they need to sort of manage that in terms of not doing all of their business then and making sure they are getting that lifetime customer value?
Yeah. I mean, the discounting piece, and this is why this video isn't just applicable to the run-up to Christmas, it's actually about the whole way of thinking about customer acquisition. The discounting piece is really crucial, and we've got to, you know, we're building up our knowledge-based information around the whole discounting piece, so I won't go into too much detail there. But your issues with discounting are that, well, they're numerous. You take money off the top by giving, say, a 15% discount. Now, if your net profit is 30%, you've just halved your net profit. So therefore, to get the same amount of profit, you need to sell twice the volume of the product. And people often miss that. They're like, yeah, but we did an extra 50% because we cut the price by 15%. But actually, you ended up with less profit than if you'd have just kept the price where it was. So you have this over erosion of actual profit margin when you start discounting. But the other thing, and when we're talking about this lifetime customer value of customers, is the people that you attract with the discounts. So if somebody's only going to buy from you when you're discounting your product, are they actually aligned with what you do? And are you going to be able to sell them full price products down the line? So unless your whole business model is defined like some of the furniture stores, should we say, around they base their pricing on the fact that they're going to give a 40% discount, and that's actually the real price of the product. If you're not doing it like that, then you've got to be really careful, because you pull in these people that you think are going to become good customers for you, but they only ever buy when there's a discount. And then there's the short-term thing as well. You talked about Black Friday and the extension of Black Friday over a period. Now, I know from talking to the team, there's members of the team and their friends and things that will have stuff in a basket on an online store, and they will not check out until they think they've got the maximum discount at any point. And so a week-long Black Friday thing where often e-commerce retailers are then saying, oh, and we're going to give you an extra 5% or an extra 10%. What they're actually doing is they're changing the mindset of their consumer when it comes to their particular brand and store to say, hold on, hold off, don't pay for that because I'm going to give you some more discount down the line. And it's the same thing where if you're abandoned basket, always by default give somebody a 10% discount code if they abandon the basket part of the way through the checkout. They're not stupid consumers. They're going to go, oh, well, what I'll do is I'll add it to the basket and then I'll abandon. I'll get the email and then I'll go and buy it there. And so what e-commerce retailers really need to think about is actually the profit is really important. It's not just about the turnover. And discounts are very dangerous on a number of different levels. And I think that they're used naively a lot of the time in e-commerce.
The temptation for a lot of businesses probably is to follow the herd, follow the competition, because they're all discounting. And so they think, yeah, we should be doing that as well.
Yeah.
But what you're basically saying is it's much better to see the bigger picture, the longer game,
Yeah.
find the right customers that aren't necessarily just driven by price,
Yeah.
And you'll build a better relationship.
Yeah, and I think that you're saying your product is worth this, your product has this much value by not discounting it. I mean, you look at some of the really successful businesses. Apple. When was the last time you saw a discount on the Apple Store? You know, they'll do educational discounts for students and things like that, but they're very light touch and they're usually actually basket adding things. And that's another thing. There's a big psychological difference between just saying we'll knock this off the price and actually saying if you buy this, we'll allow you to buy this for a better price because you're adding something else to the basket, because you're not taking the value away from the premium, like the primary product that they've added in. You're not saying, well, it's only actually worth 85% of what we were going to sell it for because we've knocked 15% off. What you're actually saying is that product is worth that, but because it's a Black Friday special, we'll treat you to. Now you've added that to basket, we'll allow you to add this other item to basket for a reduced price, which you weren't going to buy, but because, you know, we do that. And that is a much smarter way of going about it. And I think if you look around in the marketplace and following the herd is not a good strategy. You'll never be market leader by following other people's behaviours. Yeah. And good brands, solid brands that believe in what they do, sell for the price that they put on the ticket. And if you don't want to buy it for the ticket price, they're quite comfortable, you know, go somewhere else. And that's how they do their model. So, yeah.
But activity around Black Friday and the festive period is surely a good time because of the interest in everything, a good time to increase market share, increase your share of voice. Is that fair? So would you use it like that?
Well, share of voice and market share, two different things. So share of voice is how much your consumers are seeing your ads, you know, the penetration of visibility of your adverts. I would say that possibly it's not a great time to up your share of voice at Black Friday and such like, because there's a lot of other people doing it at the same time, so it becomes an expensive time. If you think about how most e-commerce retailers increase share of voice, they push more into paid, because you can't just turn up the knob on organic and things like that. And some of the bigger ones will do things like TV campaigns or digital visibility campaigns in that way. But it is about media spend. So if a lot of people are going into the market to take that to put ads in a particular time, the price is necessarily going to go up. So actually your ROI on share of voice reduces. Market share, different thing. So there's a lot of people then in the market buying. So you might be prepared to spend more to engage with them because there's more people in the market to buy. But you need to think about, again, the ROI. So don't just get sucked into, well, we've got to do Black Friday deals, we've got to increase our volume. You've got to think smart. Well, what do we want to do? Now, the smart money is on things like, what's our stock left over? I mean, why did stores invent the January sale in the first place, right? If you think about the classic sale going back in the day, it was because we've done the run up to Christmas. Most of the people have bought not only their Christmas stuff, but back in the day, it was they'd bought their winter coat and their winter clothes. There was a January sale to offload the stock that wasn't going to sell very well in the period. So if you're using Black Friday or any other sale to offload that stock that needs to be shifted because otherwise it's going to sit on your shelf, you're going to have working capital tied up, that's a good move. If you're selling a product that will sell all year round, doesn't have any seasonality, why are you going to discount it? Because you're going to move it. The time of year is the same stuff. So again, it's different things for different retailers. If you're a gardening company, garden centre, you need to move the garden furniture at the end of the summer period because nobody's going to go out and buy new chairs and tables to sit in, in the rain and the wind of October and November, are they? So and similarly, Christmas specific stuff, your 10-foot reindeer glow in the dark that your neighbours are going to love, somebody's not going to buy that in January and put it in the garden, so you need to shift that stock. So I think those kind of considerations do come in, but I see e-commerce retailers, things like clothing, we're wearing jeans, that you can wear any time of year, and shirts and things. They're not particularly a summer or a winter item, these ones. What's the benefit in discounting those? Unless it's literally to get rid of run out sizes, the extra smalls, the extra large and things like that.
So when it comes to finding these right kinds of customers, we hear a lot about first party data. Do you want to talk us through that and the importance of that, and also what type of data we should be trying to capture?
Yeah, okay. So when we're talking about this, getting the lifetime customer value maximised, not just looking at grabbing customers at a particular time of year or campaign, let's split the first party data question into, I think, two parts, because there's a preliminary bit and there's an afterwards bit, if you like. So taking the preparation, so if you're on the run up to Black Friday, or you're on the run up to Christmas or whatever time of year it is, and you're about to start spending a lot on campaigns and customer acquisition, this getting the right customer thing should start with your data. So what have you got in terms of insights? What customer cohorts can you create? By identifying the customer cohorts in terms of their behaviours, it then gives you a vision of what you should be doing going forward with your new campaigns. So if we take an example, again, with the Christmas, you might have a set of customers that bought something from range X. And let's say for the sake of it, it was, I don't know, pink flowers, just for an example, right? And what you look is that if people bought that as their first product, 80% of those people then didn't buy anything else for the rest of the year, okay? But then the people that bought orange flowers, 50% of those people went on and actually made 3 or more purchases later on down the year. So what you want to then do is you want to look at the people that bought pink flowers to start with versus orange flowers to start with and go, okay, orange flower buyers, much more valuable lifetime customer value. And for the sake of argument, I'm assuming product value is the same, things like that. Okay, so they're making repeat purchases on a much higher propensity. These people, mostly one-offs. Okay, so we've identified the buying behaviour. Then what we do is we see if we can identify the acquisition behaviour. So was it that the pink flower buyers came in from a campaign which was buy your pink flowers for Christmas, and the orange flower buyers came in from buy the perfect gift for you and your family campaign, say for the sake of argument, so a different tack on the campaign. And was it in fact actually both paid campaigns where you can go down to level of detail of ad groups and maybe keywords and things, or was it that the one-off buyers did come from paid and your high value buyers came from maybe a social media campaign or maybe from an organic, a set of organic content that's ranking very well? The purpose of doing the exercise of identifying these cohorts by purchase behavior and their subsequent lifetime customer value is then to say, well, if our cost of acquisition was the same between pink flower and orange flower buyers in terms of they all cost £10, say, to acquire, we need to stop our campaign for the pink flowers and we need to reinvest that money into the orange flower buyers, because they will give us the same immediate return, but they will also then give us a much higher lifetime return. And that, in sort of abstract, simplistic terms, is the use of that first-party data. So what's interesting about that is sometimes when we acquire new customers at Innovation Visual and they want help with their digital marketing and we look at their data sets, they can't actually identify that. It's interesting. You need a system like HubSpot, which has got good customizable data fields and data capture to get a good single customer view. But you actually also need a very good integration with your e-commerce platform in order to extract those insights. So some people get all their insights depending on what platforms they're using, but others centralize in a platform like HubSpot. So in order to do your pink flower, orange flower separation, you've got to be able to identify them. And it's easy to look at one product in a system, but it's harder to look at things like product groupings. But you need to be able to do that to identify these cohorts. And that then takes us on to how to use first-party data post-acquisition to maximize lifetime customer value. Yeah. So does that make sense on the first part?
So really, it's your marketing plan is not just for Christmas, it's for a much bigger picture than that, and you've got to be thinking way down the line and thinking how you can use this data and what benefit you can get from it, and what data you need to start with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So your analysis actually should be an ongoing program, but it's a good idea if you're going to do a large spend, you're going to ramp up for a time like Black Friday or Christmas or whatever it might be, or summer holidays. You do a re-examination of what happened last year, because you might be selling similar products. So imagine you're a garden centre. You're going to be doing campaigns in the summer about a very different product set than the campaigns you're going to be doing in the winter. So when you analyse, you want to try and analyse cohorts that were first acquired in the similar period, because there's no point acquiring, looking at the data and going, well, that person first bought balls for their Christmas tree, when you're thinking about how to plan your summer campaign because you're not selling any. But so that establishment of where you should be going to find the customers and how you should be doing it is one thing. Then the first-party data gives you, if you're getting it right, gives you so much more value to then extract this lifetime customer value going forward. So if we, let's take a garden centre again as an example, right? So you could classify your people, like your customers, on things like basket spend and things like that. But then how useful is it for the recipient of the information if you're classifying it on just how much they spend in one go? What you really want to know maybe is, how big is their garden? So have they got a big garden or a little garden? Because you're not going to want to try and sell a ride-on mower to somebody who's got like a small garden. And then you might want to think about it also in terms of how the garden's used. So are they really keen gardeners? Have they bought things like vegetables or fruit products? Like, so they're a grow and grow to eat kind of gardener, or Can you identify whether there are children that typically play in the garden? Because then you might want to advertise plants that are more robust to a football being kicked into the borders, kind of thing. So you start thinking about that. How do you identify whether a child plays in a garden? So you could look at purchase behaviour. So have they bought something which would indicate that as being the case? Or you could then start using content. And the reason why the first party data is important is because you're going to start tailoring content. And then the next piece of the puzzle becomes what you're doing with your content to then leverage the relationship, but also generate that first party data, which I suppose I should explain more.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you use content to improve first party data?
Well, so extending that analogy of the garden centre campaigns and purchase, what you could do to try and identify these customer cohorts and groups of people by different identifying factors, you can send out content. So you could send out an email, and what you could do is you might have 2 or 3 content pieces on there, and you might have one on I don't know, the 10 best ways to make your vegetables grow better without using pesticides. And then another one might be how to make your garden more child friendly. And then another one might be what are the best roses for cut flowers or something like that. And you've got these 3 different articles. What you can do is, if you've got a smart enough system, and this is where having the right tech in place comes in, is depending on what somebody clicks on, you could then say, okay, I think they've got children playing in the garden because they clicked on Article 2. And then you put that flag against that record. And then as you go forward, you're then tailoring the content from that first party data to their needs. So you'll be saying more things like, you might try and sell them a trampoline or something like that. There's no point trying to sell a trampoline to, a retired couple with no grandchildren. It's not really going to be a big seller for them. And this is the thing about personalization. Personalization is not simply putting the first name at the start of an email. Personalization is relevance of content. And relevance of content starts with, what do I know about the person I'm sending the message to?
But all of that segmenting you're talking about, splitting up your customers like that, that's all automated. So that's all happening in the background, and that's the intelligence of the system is actually working for you and doing that distribution to the right people, the right content to the right people.
You need some human smarts to be setting this stuff up, and you need the technology. But yes, it's not a manual, I'm going to move that person from list A to list B and things like that. This is all set up with automated rules, and you've planned it. I mean, that's the crucial thing. You've decided what are the identifying factors that you want to segment by, because you need to have that plan, because once you've got the people put into these slices, into these cohorts, you then need to provide the content to them. So there's no point, with a small team trying to have 25 different, buckets, if you like, of contacts in your database, because you simply don't have enough time to write 25 different types of content. But you can get smart with this. The other thing is, you can do a combination of regular newsletters, and I think e-commerce often think of workflows as, it's the abandoned basket, it's the shipping follow and that kind of stuff. And then they think the email marketing is just the regular newsletters. Well, actually, flip it around a bit. If you know somebody's interested in something, enroll them in a workflow which is custom to that requirement, and try and nurture them through there and build a deeper understanding.
And going back to the thing about discounting and pricing, it's not just about selling all the time, it's about providing information, is that right, in terms of
Absolutely.
Being helpful?
Yeah, and I think that if somebody's thinking, given the time of year, they're probably starting to think about what's going to happen after the Christmas period and things like that. There's still some refinement going on pre-campaign, pre-period. But they should be thinking about what they're going to do afterwards. And the first thing you should do, after somebody's bought from you is be helpful to them. Don't try and sell them something else immediately afterwards. Build the brand that you've got through engagement, through great content. So you're absolutely right. Let's go help them.
Okay. And content itself, you mentioned newsletter. I mean, obviously there's material, there's guides, there's things that can help people.
Yeah.
I'm guessing video is also
Video, yeah,
important.
really important. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to that, how do we go about sort of planning that and coming up with those ideas?
So you've got, if you like, you've got your personas, which might be your headline kind of target audience types, and then beneath each persona, if you've got the capacity and you can do this, you'll have some more granular buckets of cohorts. So you'll have a variable. So it might be a middle-aged man with a nice house kind of thing who likes a bit of gardening, but so the persona is that age group, but the granularity is whether they're into the growing flowers or growing vegetables or something like that. I've gone slightly off track, in fact, but yeah, you need to group them in the right way. Start with the personas, and then the subsets within there.
Okay. And depending on your relationship with that customer, I'm guessing if they're a new customer, the type of content is going to be different to if they're a returning customer and somebody you've already done business with and you know a bit more about.
Potentially, yeah. And sorry, I went a bit off track when you were talking about the content types and how you plan it. If it's useful, then you can send it. Obviously, what you don't want to do is send the same customer that you had last year, the same article that you've just repurposed, kind of thing. So you need to think about it that way. And I think being smart again and looking at the response of what you're doing with content and evolving it all the time in your content plan is important. So, 4 years ago, you might have sent this type of guide and it got a great response. Don't expect that same kind of thing to get the same response now. You probably need to do that guide but with an accompanying video, or you need to do something else in there in terms of making it different. So you need to spend a lot of time on your content plan and work with your agency really to understand where it's resonating, where it can be improved. And don't be afraid to experiment.
So when it comes to lifetime customer value, obviously we're looking to try and keep these customers for a long time, for the long term. What are the key elements that we should be thinking? I'm thinking along lines around customer experience. How do we make sure that is an ongoing experience?
That's a really good point. And I would have thought that most good e-commerce retailers, they spend a lot of time thinking about that experience. What I would say is when you come to these high volume times a year where they're doing a lot of work, so Christmas, Black Friday, don't let your customer experience fall down. So don't sell products that are out of stock and end up annoying somebody. And if you think about the Christmas period particularly, something arriving late or the wrong item or not at all is going to really aggravate, because people are under a lot of stress at Christmas, aren't they? They're buying gifts, they're buying presents, or they need something for a particular going out party or whatever it is. They don't want things turning up late. So the customer experience this time of year is really, really important. And the old rule of if you make somebody happy, they'll tell one person. If you make somebody annoyed, they'll tell 9 people or 10 people or whatever it is. You need to think about that. So customer experience wise, make sure it's top notch at this time of year. If you're expecting high volumes, equip your warehouse, your systems and processes to deal with the volume. Don't wait until the storm has hit and you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to have to work till 4 a.m. every day just to clear the backlog of orders. Get the right resources in place. And then I think make sure that, and this would go for all times of year, make sure that you can be got hold of by customers in an efficient way. Make sure that you're dealing with customer requests in a prompt manner. I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking about the fact that the promise on the site was talking about I think it was a 2 to 3 hour, we'll answer your questions, and it was 3 days to answer the question. And interestingly, I won't buy from that place now because I've heard that story.
Yeah.
You know, so it's real. So yeah, I think that's really important, but it should be something that people are focusing on all the time.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I think there's a lot of really useful information. So if we could kind of wrap it up, do you want to give us a handful of sort of takeaways that we should be thinking about off the back of today's chat?
I will endeavour to do that, although it's always the risk that I'm going to miss something out. So I would start with making sure you understand who your data say your most valuable customers are from previous campaigns at the same time of year. That's going to be your starting point, because let's go after the best fit customers to start with. So don't just spend willy-nilly, spend in the way that you've identified can be best. To build for next year, think about what data you're capturing, how you can build that first-party data. Make sure the customer experience at the time that you acquire them in this busy period is good, so that you retain them. And then, subject to getting more of the right type of customers that are in touch with your brand and not discounting and not chasing discounts, and are more likely to buy again, then your follow-up is about personalization through helpful content, by really being smart about your first-party data and the insights that it gives you. Data is data, but think of the insights that you want, and then continue to really focus down on how you can give them value, and if you do that, they will keep coming back and buying from you. And avoid discounts, present value, and that way you'll get better at the end of the day, it's better lifetime customer profit really that we want, rather than just lifetime customer value. Turnovers for vanity, profit is for sanity, as they say. And I think that's important to remember for e-commerce, especially this time of year.
Well, thanks very much, Tim. I think that's been a really useful session. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found that useful. If you have, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel, and also click the all-important notification bell. It'd also be great to hear your feedback, so please feel free to leave some comments in the section below. But for now, thanks very much, Tim.
Yeah, thanks.
And look forward to catching you on the next session.